All right, let me ask you something. What if you could take a business launch that's supposed to take years and do it in just a couple of months? Sounds impossible, right? Well, today we're diving into a fascinating case study of an organization that did exactly that. And no, this isn't about cutting corners. It's about a completely different, you could say unconventional, playbook for business acceleration. Let's get into it. So, take a look at this. On one side, you've got your typical business launch plan. We're talking a 2-year marathon, right? All the planning, the hiring, the marketing, the whole 9 yards. But then, on the other side, you have the Joseph Business School, and they did it all in just 2 months. I mean, that's not just a little faster, that's a whole different reality. The big question is, how in the world did they pull that off?
I mean, can you even imagine? You and your team work for weeks. You build this solid, professional 2-year plan. You present it to the person in charge, and they look at you and say, nope, we're doing it in 2 months. That's literally what happened here. Dr. Dolores Thomas, the school's president, said they came with a 2-year plan, but the directive from the top was 2 months. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order that basically forced them to throw out the traditional business playbook entirely.
So that brings us back to the big question. How did they actually do it? Was it just working around the clock, burning the midnight oil? Nope. Did they take a bunch of shortcuts? Not at all. It turns out they had a very specific 3-part playbook, a set of strategies that are, well, they're pretty unconventional. And that's what we're going to unpack today. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's dive into strategy number 1. The first part of this playbook is all about compressing time. But hold on, it's not what you're thinking. This isn't about time management hacks or productivity apps. For them, time wasn't some fixed resource, some constant they had to work around. No, they saw it as something flexible, something that could actually be bent.
The entire mindset was rooted in this idea. Things are going to happen so fast, your head will swim. Now, for them, this wasn't just some inspirational poster on the wall. This was a core business principle. It was a directive. It basically set the expectation that progress would happen at a speed that just didn't make logical sense. And that belief, that was the engine that fueled this whole thing.
So let's put a name to this. We'll call it time acceleration. And here's the core concept. The belief is that if you're acting on a specific, let's call it a prophetic instruction, you can supernaturally compress the timeline. It's like having a universal remote for your project plan, where you can just hit the fast forward button, skipping over conventional steps and avoiding all those typical delays.
All right, so if you're going to move at that kind of speed, you absolutely need to know exactly where you're going. You need a crystal clear destination. And that brings us to the second strategy in this playbook, see to possess.
Now this one is simple, but it's really powerful. The principle is, if you can see it, you're entitled to possess it. Think about that. This totally flips traditional goal setting on its head. It's saying that before you even type a single word of your business plan, you need to see the finished product, see the success, feel it. Because once you can see it that clearly in your mind's eye, the process of making it a physical reality has already begun.
And this isn't just theory. Here's a real-world example of how it works. Dr. Winston actually used this 4-step process to get a private jet. Seriously. Step 1, get the seed, which for him was a specific word or instruction. Step 2, meditate on it. He would literally see the interior of the plane, see the pilots, see the flights happening. Step 3, make it tangible. He got a physical picture of the jet to solidify that vision. And finally, step 4, act on faith, basically receiving the outcome before it even happened. When you break it down like that, it's actually a pretty clear, repeatable framework.
And you see this principle all over the place, like in the story of Joshua and Jericho. The instruction wasn't, go fight. It was, see, I have given you Jericho. The victory was presented as a done deal before the battle even started. So, translate that to a business context. What does it mean? It means having a vision of your success that is so clear, so detailed, that it feels completely inevitable. It's not a hope, it's a foregone conclusion, even before you've made that first sales call.
Okay, so let's recap. You've got strategy 1, bend time. You've got strategy 2, see the end result with perfect clarity. So now what? How do you actually bring it into existence? Well, that leads us to the third and final piece of this playbook. It's all about what you say. It's called Speak to Create.
And let's be clear, this is way more than just positive thinking or saying a few affirmations. The concept here, which we can call word power, is the belief that your spoken declarations, when based in faith, have the actual authority to change your physical circumstances. You're not just describing a future you want, you are actively commanding that future into being with your words. And the source material points to some pretty dramatic examples as proof of this concept in action. We're talking about things like rebuking a fever and it just leaves, stilling a raging storm with a command, cursing a tree and having it dry up overnight, even commanding the dead to rise. The through line in all of these is the idea that spoken words can have a direct, tangible, and sometimes immediate impact on the physical world.
And this quote right here, this is probably the ultimate expression of that power. The idea that you can speak to a mountain, your biggest obstacle, your biggest challenge, and command it to be moved. It's an incredible metaphor for sure, but in this playbook, it's also taken as a literal promise of the kind of transformative power your words can have.
So, there you have it. The 3 core strategies of this unconventional playbook. 1. Compress time. 2. See to possess. And 3. Speak to create. Now, let's put it all together and see how this framework can actually be applied, maybe even in your own business.
But to use this playbook, you really have to understand a fundamental shift in mindset. See, most traditional business strategy is about reacting to the visible world, market trends, competitor moves, quarterly reports. This framework, it's completely different. It's about creating from the invisible. It's a massive shift from being a reactor to being a creator.
Okay, get ready for this case study because it's wild. It's about Dr. Winston's wife, Veronica, and it happened during a recession, a time when jobs were scarce. She used this playbook. She got a seed, an instruction to look for a job in computers. Then she got incredibly specific with her vision. She wanted it to be 10 minutes from home. She wrote down a specific salary, and she even included a new car. Now what happened? A company literally moved its headquarters all the way from Europe into a building that was, you guessed it, 10 minutes from her house. They offered her the job, but they gave her $5,000 more than she asked for. And yes, they gave her a brand new Buick. I mean, come on. That's a perfect, almost unbelievable example of this playbook in action.
So, when you see a story like that, what's the big takeaway? For us, for any entrepreneur. The crucial point is this. Maybe your most powerful assets aren't the ones you can list on a spreadsheet. Maybe they lie beyond the traditional business plan.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to think about. What if your greatest strategic asset isn't your business plan? What if it's not your funding, your product, or your team? What if your single greatest advantage is your belief? It's a radical thought for sure, but for a business that launched in 2 months instead of 2 years, it might just be the one that changes everything.